What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome back to The Fringe. I know we usually don't have 3 videos in a day, but I had to put this video out because breaking news, there are talked before on the channel about how when it comes to Canada, when it comes to the way things are run, and again, it's definitely a sign of the times that you can only push an animal so far into a corner before it swipes back. I said this during the pandemic, I'm saying it now, and you're seeing the proof in the pudding as protests are now rocking Nepal. We're seeing governments ousted around the world. People are fed up with the authoritarian government as well as government trying to really manage our lives rather than just push forward policy. I've stated millions of times. In fact, I chimed in on Northern Perspectives live stream on Sunday, and I used the same words then when I said, look, the government's job is to pass policy. It's not to tell you what to do, where to go, who to be with. Their job isn't to govern your life. It's to set the policies that affect your life in terms of the legal parameters of said laws. What we're seeing now, and I head over to my X feed here. I'm hoping that we can get this on camera. Here's the scene in Nepal over a protest. You guys remember the Freedom Convoy? Yeah, it wasn't too long ago. Take a look at what's happening in Nepal. It makes the Freedom Convoy look like nothing, as the streets are flooded. This is a result, by the way. The government had shut down social media, and people revolted. So when you think about Mark Carney's Online Harms Act that he's trying to push, where it's going to limit TikTok, YouTube, where you get your news from, we've already seen such authoritarian pushes being handled in Canada, not necessarily to the extent of what's happening in Nepal, but again, as I said earlier, there's only so far you can push an animal before it claws back. Take a look at what's happening here. Look at how full those streets are. And this is about censorship. You have told the people you run a dictatorship, that they don't have the right to choose. They don't have the right to find their own information. They don't have the right to speak out against the government. This is what happens. You know, the post that I got this off of from Mark Nixon says, if the government tried this stunt in Canada, what would happen? I would hope something similar. You'd have revolt. But look, it goes even further than that. The barricades are down. Like, the police can't even keep going. You can see the riot police over here. They've got their shields. The barriers are pushed down. There's nothing they can do. This is full-out revolt. And it's what we're going to see as things move forward with other countries doing this. And again, it's not just Nepal. Stick with me. I'm going to get to that. But of course, the Clown Broadcasting Corporation comes out with an article. What's behind the protest rocking Nepal? Surely it can't be that they too have mainstream shill prostitutes who are in charge of their media who say that they can't speak out. Well, they go on to say a social media ban triggered the youth-led demonstrations, but the anger runs deeper. Nepal's Prime Minister KP Sharma Oli has resigned as the South Asian country's security chiefs are calling for calm and restraint as protesters, many of them young students, defied a curfew and continued to target government buildings and other symbols of the political elite. So again, they've had enough. The government's job isn't to tell you what to do with your life. The simmering anger spilled out into the streets over allegations of decade-long corruption and nepotism, sorry. It's late in the day. Forgive me, folks. Nepotism, prompted by a recent social media ban implemented by the government that was quickly reversed, a move that did nothing to quell the demonstrations. Protesters blocked roads for a second day and set fire to the Parliament building and other administrative buildings in the capital of Kathmandu, as well as the homes of prominent politicians, while army helicopters were seen airlifting some ministers to safety. They've revolted against the government. It's an uprising. The question is, and again, shout out to Master of Snatch, one of my moderators, who says the $10 butter revolution is coming. When you see butter hit $10, people are going to, as soon as you affect the food supply, as soon as you affect people's ability to feed their families legitimately, you're going to see this kind of a revolt. When you silence people from getting their opinions or their news sources or their social medias, when you have an authoritarian state, this is the result. Canada tried it peacefully with the Freedom Convoy during the pandemic. This is where I see things headed in Canada if they don't realize very quick they work for us, not the other way around. Nepal's military is sending in troops to restore order to try and contain the violence. On Monday, police countered the large-scale protest with deadly force, leaving 19 demonstrators dead and more than 100 injured. The UN Human Rights Chief, Volker Turk, has called for an investigation into the reports of disproportionate use of force by Nepal's security forces. The ban blocking 26 social media platforms in the country, including Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, and WhatsApp, took effect on Thursday. So it only took them 24 hours to mobilize and say, that's it. You can't shut that down. It was widely criticized as a means to stifle dissent, with many sharing anti-government messages online, but the Nepalese government said that it was to tackle hate speech and misinformation. That was what I wanted to pick up. Now, when you look at Mark Carney trying to push for an Online Harms Act, isn't that the same thing that he's saying? So Canada could soon see the same treatment from its government, shutting down sites like this, like YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, X. You had Jagmeet Singh during the last federal election saying that just because Elon Musk was in with Donald Trump that they should ban X. You had Rob Ford canceling contracts with Starlink. This was the trigger for the protest to spread quickly, said John Sifton, Asia Advocacy Director for Human Rights Watch. But this really is about deep-seated frustration, especially among the younger generations, over deep-seated corruption and nepotism and poor governance. Doesn't that sound like what's happening in Canada? A revolution is on its way, folks. And I keep telling you that while people think that Alberta talking about leaving Canada is the biggest threat to Canada's democracy, it's the people. You flood in all these immigrants. You allow them to take our jobs. You allow them to run rampant through our streets. You tell us to just comply when people come over to break into our homes. You take away firearms from responsible gun owners. This is the result. Once you silence their ability to get information, once you silence their ability to have a voice, if you tell the people you're not allowed to speak, they simply say, watch me. And this is the result. It's blown over into France, by the way. I showed on a video yesterday how Paris had deteriorated as a result of uncontrolled immigration. Now you see Macron is being asked to step down. Francois Bayrou's non-confidence or confidence vote backfired into a non-confidence vote. So here's an article again from Clown Broadcasting Corporation. What's happened to France's government, why it collapsed, and what comes next. Legislatures toppled France's government in a confidence vote Monday, a new crisis for Europe's second largest economy that obliges President Emmanuel Macron to search for a fourth prime minister in 12 months. Just like Canada, you can see how things are falling apart. These guys, Macron was buddy-buddy with Justin Trudeau. He loves Mark Carney. Prime Minister Francois Bayrou was ousted overwhelmingly in a 364 to 194 vote against him. Bayrou paid the price for what appeared to be a staggering political miscalculation, gambling that lawmakers would back his view that France must slash public spending to rein in its debts. Instead, they seized on the vote that Bayrou called to gang up against the 74-year-old centrist who was appointed by Macron last December. The demise of Bayrou's short-lived minority government, now constitutionally obligated to submit its resignation after just under 9 months in office, heralds renewed uncertainty and the risk of prolonged legislative deadlock for France as it wrestles with its pressing challenges, including budget difficulties and internationally wars in Ukraine, Gaza, and shifting priorities of U.S. Donald Trump. Again, does that sound like anywhere else familiar to you folks? So they go over the economic ruin. Why did they call a confidence vote? Beirut rolled the dice by calling the confidence vote a decision that quickly backfired on the political veteran as the left-wing far-right legislature seized opportunity to oust him, seeking to increase pressure on Macron. Arguing the sharp cuts to repair public finances, Beirut promised to slash 44 billion euros or 70 billion Canadian in spending in 2026 after France's deficit hit 5.8% of the GDP last year, far above the official EU target of 3%. Again, their spending's out of control, much like Canada. It goes on to talk about France's debt. It's who's going to replace him. Can they force an election? Things are falling apart around the world. People are starting to wake up. So this story is good news while it is horrible news for what's happening around the world. Again, 19 people lost their lives trying to stand up for their freedom of speech. We in Canada have political prisoners as two of our heralded patriots are set to face the courtrooms in less than a month to see what their fate is going to be for committing mischief. By daring to oppose the government, two of Canada's most loved patriots, Tamara Lich and Chris Barber, could face up to 8 years in jail for merely asking the government to come outside and hear what they had to say. I think we're closer to a revolution than some people think. I think that what you're seeing around the world is collapse of authoritarian government. I hope it never comes to this in Canada. I hope this isn't what we see here, but let me know what you think we're going to see in the future. And if you're surprised this is starting to happen around the world, if it's your first time here, I hope this video's earned your subscription. Make sure you leave a thumbs up or a comment down below, folks. Share it out on social media. All of those things help push these kind of videos past the censorship, and you know darn well they're going to be making sure nobody gets this news or this info, even though it's going global. If you haven't yet, I hope this video hit your met your subscription needs. Hit the button. Join me live here on the channel Wednesdays and Fridays for Unhinged Fringe Wednesday nights, Friday Night Fringe on Fridays, as we go through everything that happened this week in politics, everything we know coming up in the week ahead, as well as Q&A within the greatest YouTube community on the platform. I look forward to chatting with you guys outside and making these videos. I most importantly look forward to talking with you this Friday and Wednesday, starting at 6 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Central, here on the channel. With that said, ladies and gentlemen, I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you have a great rest of your day. I'll catch you on the next one.